जो बात जिसका obviously activity भोपाल कंपनी का ऑफर देता है CNC Infosys और LP 3D printing DXL भोपाल सर उनके देखना अगर आपके पास मिल जाए उनके बंदे ITBP में ऑनलाइन एडमिन दिया था CNC प्रोसेस में किसने दिया था किसने दिया था और हाँ ये हो
Yes, good afternoon, all of you. Good afternoon, participants. We have with us Indradeep sir. He is from IIT Roorkee. And Billuri sir, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm there, sir.
Yes, sir.
So should I start?
Hello, Indradeep sir.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Sir, your video is not visual. Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, please, Billuri sir, to introduce sir. We have with us Indradeep sir. Yes, sir, please.
Good
Yes,
afternoon, everyone. I am Dr.
yes.
Manish Billore, Professor of Mechanical Engineering and Director of Management at Oriental Group of Institutes. And it's a pleasure to welcome this afternoon in this AICT sponsored Atal Faculty Development Program. This indeed is a rare opportunity for Oriental Group of Institutes to have such program being allocated by AICT Government of India. And we are one of the elite institutes all over India who are conducting this Atal Faculty Development Program uh, on this subject of design thinking. So now we have for this session our guest speaker, Professor Inderdeep Singh, and I'm having this privilege to introduce him to the audiences. So he's a Doctor of Philosophy from IIT Delhi, MTech from IIT Delhi, and Bachelor of Technology from NIT Hamirpur. Right now, he's a professor at Indian Institute of Technology, and previously he has held several important positions in the field of academics. So he has got several laurels, several accolades, awards, some of which are Outstanding Teacher Award 2013 by Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. Not only this, he has handled a lot of projects by Government of India. He has appeared in on the national television, Gyan Darshan, for a series of video lectures. He has developed the suitable pedagogical methods for various classes, intellectual caribers, and research in e-learning, which is top of the time now these days. Also, he has contributed 20 chapters in different books published by various international publishers, including Taylor and Francis, Woodhard, Smithers, Rapra, Nova, and Wiley. He has guided so far 14 research scholars for their PhD degree and 43 MTech students. Also, he has got so far 200 plus publications in various international, national, and reviewed journals and conferences. Also, he has a reviewer of 20 national and international journals of repute. He has been carrying out various consultancy projects by different sponsoring authorities, and right now he's working on 7 such projects. Talking about the awards that he has got, Foundation for Innovation and Technology Transfer Award for Best Industry Relevant PhD Thesis, first position in the class of Mechanical Engineering 1998 at NIT Hamirpur, Outstanding Sportsperson of the Year 2000 by Board of Sports Authorities, IIT Delhi, Roll of Honor 2004 by Vindhyachal House, IIT Delhi, Institute Blazer for Outstanding Performance in the field of hockey at Inter-IIT Sports Meet at IIT Bombay, and 2 gold, 6 silver, and 2 bronze medals at Inter-IIT Sports Meet in hockey and football. Then he has also got a lot of important academic and administrative assignments. To name a few, as Associate Dean of Students Welfare, IIT Roorkee, Coordinator, Rethink the Tinkering Lab, Co-Principal Investigator at the Design Innovation Center at IIT Roorkee, Member of Senate at IIT Roorkee, Coordinator, Orientation Program, Member Board of Studies, Mechanical Engineering at Punjab University, Kurukshetra University, GHU, Pranjal University, GNDEC, and also Member Advisory Board at various national and international conferences, seminars, and symposia. So with this brief introduction, I welcome you, Dr. Inderdeep Singh, to Oriental Group of Institutes at this Atal Faculty Development Program. I hope this will be a great experience for us, the listeners, the faculty members, and the students to interact with you this afternoon. With these words, I kindly request you to kindly carry forward with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Manish. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Professor Manish, Professor Chitresh, for giving me this opportunity to interact with the participants of this Atal-sponsored program under the Atal FDP is being conducted all across the country. First of all is the importance of the acknowledgements, whatever details Professor Manish has shared. It is not possible to create or to generate research articles or PhD students without the cooperation, support and hard work of the students who worked with me during the last 15 years at IIT Roorkee. So students worked hard really, then they produced some results, we discussed, deliberated, finalized, then published, and we are thankful to the kind reviewers who accepted our work, and the work was published in the journals. So therefore, it is not only an accomplishment of a single individual, it is a teamwork done by our team members. PhD students, master students, even UG students have published with me in different international journals. So we have the best students with us here in the campus, and they work really hard, and we have a good team of students right now also who are working in different aspects. The topic that I am going to touch today is not related to our research work that we are doing, but it is related to the topics that normally we deal in the class. I teach courses related to product design and development, design for manufacturability, value engineering, production planning and control, operations management, industrial management. So all these courses normally I have taught in the last 15 years. And since I am the coordinator of the NPTEL at IIT Roorkee and one of the national coordinators in the NPTEL at IIT Madras, so we are, I think, a group of 7 national coordinators who are from different IITs. So I have recorded courses on product design and development, product design using value engineering, then product design, manufacturing guidelines for product design. So product design is the need of the hour. Now, even if we, is my voice clear, Chitresh?
Yes, sir, clear. Yes,
Clear,
sir.
okay. So what I want to emphasize is that product design is the need of the hour, and the design education we are lacking in the country as a whole. So normally we don't have many bachelors of design and masters of design programs in our curriculum all across the country. If you see, even at IITs, we are dealing more with engineering. We have all basic engineering programs running in our curriculum, like bachelors in mechanical engineering, bachelors in electrical and electronics engineering, bachelors in civil engineering. So we don't have many bachelors of design programs. Similarly, even if we graduate in engineering, we don't find many good programs on masters of design, although IIT Bombay has a very good masters of design program. IIT Delhi also has a masters of design program. We are also going to start from next academic year a program on masters of design. So design education has to pick up in our country, and therefore I think AICT was very right in giving design thinking as one of the tools or one of the topics which must be discussed across the length and breadth of the country. And right now, since we are doing the such courses in an online mode, maybe I am delivering one or the other lecture every alternate day. Yesterday I delivered a lecture in a FDP which is being conducted by Rajasthan Technical University in one institute in Jaipur, SKIT. And today I am delivering this session with OIST in Bhopal. Tomorrow morning I have a session with Government Engineering College Pauri in Uttarakhand, and in the evening tomorrow I have another session with University in Burla, Government of Engineering College in Burla, Odisha. So maybe next week again, I am from Monday to Friday, Monday to Saturday, all days are booked. At least one session is booked in one of the other FDP programs. So all across the country, such FDP programs are being conducted, and the government is spending a lot of money on organizing these type of programs. So as teachers, it is our responsibility to do justice with the program, and as learners also it is our responsibility to take advantage of the program. So many a times we see that normally the video for the participants is off from the bandwidth point of view, but we should not take it as an advantage of doing multiple things. Once we are attending a session, we after every FDP we must try to have a focus on what is the delta V. So today my topic is on product design using value engineering. So some value addition must take place after the course has been completed. So once we complete this FDP program of 5 days, maybe you can judge that how much knowledge you have gained and what topics you remember after the program or the FDP is over. So my topic is related to product design using value engineering, and almost all teachers who will come for this FDP will talk about product design. I will focus on value engineering more rather than talking about the product design. But normally in every session we start with the basics of product design. Maybe all of us have a different way of explaining product design to the participants. So I will also share my screen. I have actually two PowerPoint presentations. One is a case study which is directly available on the internet. You can search that case study and use it for your teaching learning process whenever you are going to deal with the topic of value engineering in your institute. Maybe if you are going to teach or you are going to explain somebody what do you mean by value engineering, that case study comes very handy. It is able to explain all the nuances, all the basic aspects, fundamentals of the value engineering or the technique of value engineering. So maybe normally we are using WebEx and Microsoft Teams for engaging our classes. I am new to Google Meet, but I'll try to present. So is my screen visible? Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So can you see the topic, product design and overview?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I start from here. So as is clear from your screen, there is a topic of product design. And as Professor Manish discussed, I am currently the one of the co-investigators in Design Innovation Center. So we are trying to come up with some few innovative products which can be of some help for the society. So we will not be talking about DIC today, but we will talk about the general aspect of product design. But this is on your screen, you can see the change in the design of a product. This is one typical example of a bicycle, how it looked like in 1818, and in mid 1970s this was the design. And if you plot it further and you see the cycle design in 2020, you will still see certain modifications in this design. So this emphasizes the point that if you want to be a designer, you can never stop. There is no product which we can call that this is the final design for this product. Always there is a scope for improvement. Always there is a scope where you can increase the safety aspects, you can improve the functional aspects, you can increase the reliability of the product. There are different aspects on which the proposed design and the current design can be compared. So this is a basic example of what is the need of the product design. Cycle was existing in 1818 also, but right now also people are working in coming up with better and better designs of a bicycle. This is the problem normally that you encounter. This is taken from a book. So this is the lack of cooperation in designing a swing. As we see that there are different departments involved in designing a product. So as proposed, this is the design proposed by the marketing department. This is as specified in the product request. This is the design by the senior designer. This is the design as used by the customer. This is what has been produced. So you see, I will just read the key departments which are involved in the product design. That is the marketing department, the design department, the customer, and the manufacturing. And each one of them have their own perception of the design. The marketing people will observe or view or specify the design from their own thought process. A manufacturer will look at the design, that how it can be made easily, what or with minimum effort. Similarly, customer will have a different perception of how the design must look like. And finally, what the customer wanted was a swing. So this can be a easiest design of a swing. So this is what is expected, but different people have different notions about the design of solving this problem which has been put forth by the customer. So we are trying to design a product and making the life of the customer difficult, but the customer wanted a very simple product. So this lack of cooperation among the various departments normally lead to the failure of the different products. Now, what are the reasons? Though lack of cooperation is one, but then there can be other reasons for the failure of the products which are given on the screen. We will not delve into each one of these, but this is just one important point to mention here, the point number 2, that is the poor design. So normally we are not able to design the product in the best possible manner as desired by the customer, and therefore the products normally fail. So therefore we can see this is an important point to keep in mind, that once we are designing a product, we must take into account what the customer actually wants. Otherwise, there can be other parameters also, like which are from the management point of view. This is an engineering problem, that is poor design, as engineers are tasked with the work for designing, or tasked with the project of designing the product. So we may overestimate the market size, we may do the incorrect positioning of the product, we may launch the product at the wrong time, the product may have high cost, ineffective promotion, we are not able to sell the idea properly, then there can be a management influence, high development costs involved, and a lot of competition in the market segment. So all these are theoretical, and if you think about these, normally when we go to the class, we don't explain each and every line or each and every point. We ask the students, okay, high development cost, kindly give us few examples. Similarly, priced too high, give example. Which product fail, or find out from Google which are the products which failed because of the high cost. Which are the products which failed because of the wrong timing? The product was introduced in the market at a wrong time. Give us at least 1 or 2 examples in the class. So it is more of a discussion type of mode rather than a prescription or kind of teaching that I am telling you, so you have to remember this. It will be learned better if the people engage and start thinking on these points, because normally all of you may be already having a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, so maybe knowing that how or which products have failed because of which of the reasons. So these are all the reasons leading to the product failure. Also I must share that these may not be all the reasons which have led to the product failure. Even I have kept the right side vacant on the slide. You can put 10 or 15 other reasons also which may lead to the product failure. There can be different reasons which are not explained or not listed on this screen. Another point, why do we need to, because the title of my lecture is product design using value engineering. So first thing we need to understand is, why do we need to design the products? If we see we are leading a very comfortable life, almost all products that we require in our day-to-day life are easily available to us. We can communicate using a mobile phone, we are using computers which help us in n number of ways. We are driving vehicles, we have cars, motorcycles, scooters. So even for our travel, we have the products available. Even for making the life easier in the kitchen, we have n number of different appliances which are available. So if we see almost all of our needs are being met, then why do we need to further develop the products? Because if all needs are met, what is the need for new product development? So product life cycle normally gives us that hint that every product will have certain life, and after that period the product has to be replaced. Either the same product a person will buy, or they will try to buy a better or advanced version of a product. So therefore product life cycle is the course that a product sales and profits take take over its lifetime. So from a management point of view, this PLC is a very, very good indicator that how the management should react at different stages of the product life cycle. For example, when the product is being introduced into the market, what must be the management strategies? Once the sales have stagnated or matured, what should be the product development strategy or the product management strategy? And once the sales are going down, what must be the strategy in order to be competitive, in order to be again among the best companies in the country or in the world? So therefore, the product life cycle is not only from theoretical point of view that we draw a product life cycle and indicate the various phases. It is a good indicator for the management to understand that what type of strategies have to be adopted at what particular movement. So it shows the stages that products go through from development to decline from the market. So once the product starts to decline, we need to think that how the product further needs to be reinforced, whether we should add some new features in the product or we should withdraw this product and come up with advanced version of this product, or maybe we can think of launching a parallel product which will slowly push this product into obsolescence, or it will become obsolete and the new product will take the place of this old product. So we can have different companies may have their different strategies, but we normally understand the product life cycle as a good indicator that how a management should take a decision related to the products. So this is normally a textbook diagram which normally we explain in the class. All of us know this. New product design, normally there are two important factors which focus on product design, or every company normally focus on these 2 points. So every organization has to design, develop and introduce new products. Why? As a survival strategy or as a growth strategy. So either they would like to survive in the market by launching new products, or they want to diversify and grow further and launch new products in the market. So product design is conceptualization of an idea about a product and transformation of that idea into reality. And how value engineering will help in that, we will come to that in the subsequent slides. So we have to transform our ideas into product. I could see the program today is the second day, the third, maybe the last session for today. So we have seen that already this new product design, different steps in product design have already been covered. So I'm not going into the detail of that. So this is again the need of a new product design, why companies not always look for new products. So the profit margin may be decreasing, too much competition is there, therefore they want to improve their product. Sometimes the companies want to be in business for a longer time, so they keep on innovating, keep on coming up with new products. Now this is a very, very important slide. This is showing that importance of design or the product design. Now how the product design and manufacturing influence the 3 important criteria of a successful product design. The price is one criteria, quality is another criteria, and cycle time is the third criteria. So you can see that design will influence it by 70 to 80%. Whereas the manufacturing only has the influence of 20 to 30%. So if we are able to design the product correctly, we will be able to control the cost or the price, we will be able to control the quality, we will be able to control the cycle time in which the product will be manufactured. Like in this semester, I am taking a course on design for manufacturability. So in design for manufacturability, what do? We design the product by keeping all the manufacturing constraints in mind, or all the manufacturing guidelines in mind. So when the product goes into manufacturing, all factors that are going to affect the manufacturing of the product have been taken care during the design stage itself. So therefore the manufacturing becomes easier. So it becomes easy to produce that product. And other point also is important, that manufacturing can only control 20 to 30% of the cost of the product, whereas the 70 to 80% of the cost, quality and cycle time is locked during the design stage itself. So therefore the design becomes an important part of any product development project. But these are the successful. We have seen, we started with an important point, that is the why do the products fail, in which poor design of the product is one of the important parameters, although there are number of other parameters as well. For example, incorrect positioning or wrong time of launching, or the price is too high or the quality is too low. There can be n number of parameters which govern the failure of the product, but at least there are 5 important characteristics which may help you to design successful products. So these are the product quality, the product cost, the development time, the development cost, and the development capability. And this list is endless. You can add other points also. Product design is also, because product design is directly controlling the quality, cost, and time. So therefore we are not writing the product design here, but for a successful product design, we must have a focus on quality, cost, time, as well as the development cost. Now coming on to the value engineering. Now this is, since my topic is product design using value engineering, so the product design I have just maybe in 10 to 15 minutes time I have touched down on the product design. Now maybe another 40-45 minutes I will talk about value engineering, and finally we will have a question and answer session, maybe question session only. I am not very sure whether I will be able to answer, but at least we will have a question round. So we have value engineering. What is value engineering? Normally, I will start with an anecdote that when I joined IIT Roorkee in 2005 December, 2006 January, 30th January, I remember, I was told that there is a program going on for the ACC, this cement organization ACC. Their engineers are here for 1 month, and I am expected to deliver a talk on value engineering. That was my first brush with value engineering, or first crush with value engineering, in 2006 January 30th. And on January 22nd I got married, so the lecture was scheduled after 8 or 9 days of my marriage. So I thought that after marriage I may not get too much of time, but before marriage only I should plan my lecture. So I started looking for good books on value engineering, and my first perception about value engineering was that it must be something related to the moral values which we must follow during our engineering practice or during our engineering profession. So I was looking for moral values and other things, but later on when I found good books on value engineering, one of the best books that I found was by Lawrence D. Miles, LD Miles, one of the best books on value engineering. So once I read that book, I got a completely new idea about this complete field of engineering, which normally we don't teach at the UG level, but normally at PG level value engineering is normally taught in specialized programs on industrial engineering. So we will just try to understand that how value engineering can help us in designing our products in a better way, followed by one case study of 15 to 20 minutes. That I have a number of case studies, but once I introduce this topic to all of you, maybe you can yourself search, you will get n number of case studies related to value engineering in different sectors, starting from the hospitals to even the kitchens. One of my students presented a very good case study of value engineering as applied to the design of a kitchen equipment. So what is value engineering? Now, value engineering, we will start with the basic concept and then we will come to the definition. Now, globally, there is a lot of competition. There are very few products which can claim that this is the only product by only this company. Even in the COVID-19 situation also, you can see there is no company which can claim that we are the only company which is working on developing a vaccine for COVID-19. There may be around 9 good candidates which are into the last phase of the clinical trials, which means that maybe in the coming 2 to 3 months time, there may be 5 to 6 vaccine candidates who have done class 3 level of clinical trials and or third stage of clinical trials, and we have a choice there. So even in a pandemic situation also, we have a choice to choose which vaccine we want to use. So therefore, for the products which we are normally using, suppose I am using headphones. So these headphone companies, there are number of headphone companies which may be producing the headphones. So which one I will buy will depend upon the quality, performance, reliability, cost. So there will be different parameters of value which will help me to make this decision. So globally there is a very competitive environment. So once we are designing a product, we have to see whether it will be able to meet or exceed the requirements of the customer, as well as exceed the competition which is already existing, or the products which are already being used by the customers. So what are the important questions now which we have to answer in order to understand the concept of value engineering? First question is, how companies are able to launch a new product with upgraded quality at a lower price? So if you see, especially in the electronics segment, the companies are coming up with new products. The quality is better, the performance is better, the life is better, the reliability is more, but still the price is normally same, or it may be low. Are these companies selling at loss? So no company will make any product and start selling it by making a loss. So are they manipulating with the quality or performance of the product? So they may not be manipulating with the quality. So the answer to the last two questions are these companies selling at loss? The answer is no. Are they manipulating with the quality and performance of the product? Again, the answer is no. So without manipulating the quality or performance of the product and still making some profit, how the companies can come up with new products? So that is the basic concept of value engineering. Now, if we go into the historical perspective of value engineering, it dates back to the World War, when the countries were at war against each other. So there were a lot of rearrangement, or there were different coalitions. So there were countries in one coalition, there were countries in another coalition, and then lot of weapons, lot of equipment was damaged. So when this damaged equipment was being repaired, the drawings were lost, the manufacturing processes that were used for initially making these components or parts of the weapons was not now available. So the engineers started to wonder that, can we use an alternate process to make this product? Can we use an alternate material to make this product? Can we tinker with the design slightly, so that maybe we are able to satisfy the function for which this component was being used, without compromising the performance or the quality? So when these three important thoughts were developed, the change in the design, the change in the manufacturing process, the change in the materials, so it was found out that the new designs are better. The new designs are better in terms of performance, they are better in terms of quality, but still they are being able to achieve them at a lower cost. So that led to the development of this branch, that why it is not possible that we come up with alternate materials, we think about alternate processes, we think about alternate designs of the product, so that we are able to provide the desired function, the function for which the product has to be designed at a reliable design at a lower cost. So the reliability of the product or performance of the product, quality of the product, maintenance of the product is not compromised, but still you are able to develop the product at a minimum cost. So with that concept, this value engineering concept was developed. So their companies are not selling at loss, they are not compromising with quality and performance of the product, but still they are able to launch a new product at a lower price. Why? I have already given you the answer, that they are working on alternate materials, alternate processes, and alternate designs of the product. So this is the basic summary. In 1947, the Vice President of General Electric, Harry Ehrlicher, observed the occurrence of an unusual phenomenon. So this unusual phenomenon I have already explained you, that had been appearing throughout the industry. And this unusual phenomenon led to the development of value engineering. And that unusual phenomenon was a new thought process related to the change in materials, the change in process, the change in design, and then maybe coming up with a better design, which is light in weight, which is better in terms of maintenance, which is better in terms of comfort, which is safe, which is giving you the desired function without compromising on the quality of performance. So why can't every product be redesigned by thinking in these terms, that what can be the other method of doing the same work? if this product is not available with me. For example, I am using this computer mouse. So if the mouse is not available, I don't want to use the mouse. What can be the other product which can help me to achieve the same function which I am achieving with this mouse? So that led to a completely new thought process, that how the products have to be analyzed keeping in mind the term value. Now value, how value is defined, that we will see in the subsequent slide. Now what is the value? Now value is use versus esteem value. Now the use value for this computer mouse or this bottle which is now empty, if you can see this, maybe it is a sanitizer bottle. Now the use value, maybe it must be able to dispense the sanitizer as and when required without any problem. But the esteem function can be how it looks like, what is the shape, what is the color of this bottle, can the pump may be given a different shape, can the pump will be maybe of different color. So that is the esteem value. So normally every product will have a use as well as a esteem value, and as a product designer I will have to take a decision that how much of the use value must be there in the product and how much of esteem value may be there in the product. For example, the tie clip example is shown on your slide. The tie clip holds the tie and it keeps the tie out of soup. If you are having your soup, the tie clip will hold the tie in its place and will not allow your tie to go inside the soup. You may buy a tie clip for rupees 10, and you may even buy a tie clip for rupees 10,000, or maybe for that matter rupees 100,000. Why? Because you may have a diamond studded tie clip. The diamond studded tie clip may be very, very costly, but the use function is being achieved by the 10 rupee tie clip also and the 10,000 rupee tie clip also. The use function you are achieving with the tie clip, but esteem function is that it is diamond studded, it is shining in any party, and maybe some brand name may be printed in diamond, or maybe the diamond may be used for writing your name on the tie clip, or your wife's name on the tie clip, or your husband's name on the tie clip. So maybe it can be any way of giving esteem to that product. So the product is tie clip only. Use function is to protect the tie from going into the soup, but the esteem function can be different. Similarly for car also, it also has both the use as well as the esteem value. If the car, normally the function is to transport passengers from one place to another place. So for 4-seater capacity or 5-seater capacity, you may have a large range of cars available. So the esteem value is if you buy a very, very costly car, the use function may remain the same, but the esteem function may still may affect your decision when you are going to purchase a car. Now this is, as I am using the word function again and again, value engineering is always focused on the function. So whenever you are going to design a product, first thing that you need to answer is what is the function of the product. Now the function can be a basic function and a secondary function, and even you may have a tertiary function. So you have a basic function for which the person or a customer is going to buy that product. For example, the basic function for these headphones can be to make you hands-free, to focus, or maybe to give your sound only to a specific person like I am using. Maybe in this room nobody else may be listening to what the questions you are going to ask. So maybe it is giving a specific function to me. For the purpose I have bought these headphones. So that is the basic function of these headphones. So basic function, and then we have a secondary function. Now we take an example of a pencil. What is the basic function of the pencil? If you can see on the screen, the basic function of the pencil is to spread the lead. But why do we spread the lead? To make the marks. Why do we make the marks? We make the marks to write the words. Why do we write the words? To transmit the thoughts, because in my mind there may be some thoughts. I may write it into a language, maybe English, Hindi or Punjabi, because these are the only 3 languages I know. So then I write them, and then I will be able to transmit my thoughts, and my thoughts will help me to communicate my ideas. And these ideas, whatever I am sharing with you, may change attitudes of the learners, of the participants. So what is the basic function of a pencil? The basic function of a pencil is spread lead, but the secondary function of a pencil may be the communication of ideas or the change of attitude. So we are able to understand the function of any product by asking certain type of questions. So what type of questions I have asked? Why do we spread lead? To make marks. Why do we make marks? To write words. Why do we write words? To transmit thoughts. Why do we transmit thoughts? To communicate ideas. Why do we communicate ideas? To change attitudes. So what is common in my questions? In my questions, the common thing is why. Another important point is that I may ask the questions like how the attitudes can be changed by the communication of ideas, how the ideas can be communicated by transmission of thoughts, how the thoughts can be transmitted by writing the words, how the words can be written by making the marks, how the marks can be made by spreading the lead. So which means that if I ask how and why type of questions, I will be able to understand that what is the basic function and what is the secondary function, what is the tertiary function of the product. So how do we define value engineering? So value engineering, why we have discussed or we have understood the word function, because the word function will be coming in the definition. So once we try to understand the definition, the word function must be clear to us, because cost already you know. So the basic relation in value engineering is between the function and the cost. So I explained the word function, cost all of you already know. So now we can define the term value engineering. Now what is value engineering? I will read the third statement. The other two are slightly longer. The third one I will read for you. It is that maximum value is obtained when essential function is achieved for minimum cost. So all the three things are related in this definition: value, maximum value, which I already explained that you have a use value and you have a esteem value. So value also you know. Maximum value is obtained when essential function. What is the adjective here? Essential. So there are basic function and a secondary function, which we have already understood. Now essential function is basically the basic function, the use function. So maximum value is obtained when the use function is achieved for minimum cost. So what does that mean? That means that you will have good value product if it is achieving the desired function, which means that value is directly proportional to the function, but it must be achieved at the minimum cost, which means value is inversely proportional to the cost. For example, if the cost is very high, the value of the product will go down. But if the cost is low, the value will be high. So it is inverse proportion between the value and the cost. Whereas between the value and the function, there is a direct proportionality. If the functions are good, you are able to achieve the desired function reliably, the value will be high. If you are not able to achieve the desired function reliably, for example, if I am using a matchstick, in the morning I am coming to my office and lighting the dhoop batti or a candlestick. So maybe what do we see there? I am using a matchbox. Now every day if I have to match 4 or 5 matchsticks to light the dhoop batti, then what will be the problem? I will say no, it is not. The matchstick is not providing me the desired function reliably. Every day 4 or 5 matchsticks I have to use, which means that the value of this product has gone down. So it is a relationship. The value engineering is a relationship between these three terms. That is, one is value, another one is cost, and third one is function. So normally we define it as value is directly proportional to the function, it is inversely proportional to the cost, and sometimes we write it as value is equal to function divided by cost. So once we are designing the product, we must keep in mind that the desired function is achieved reliably by the product at minimum cost. Then you can have 4 or 5 different alternative ways through which you can achieve the desired function, and whichever is giving you the minimum cost, that product is more valuable as compared to the other products which are also satisfying the function but are satisfying the function at a higher cost. An important point to note, I know that those who are listening carefully, n number of questions may be crossing their mind. For example, the wristwatch. There are n number of companies which are manufacturing the wristwatch. Now you may get a wristwatch for rupees 150 or 200, and you may buy a wristwatch running into lakhs of rupees. Now for both The desired function is to show time. So the desired function is met reliably by a 150 rupees watch also. Reliably is very important. It must not happen that you want to buy a watch for suppose to use it for 3 years and it is only giving you or showing you the time for 3 months, and after that there is a problem. Technically you have to take it again to a shopkeeper and then maybe he will try to see that how to repair the shop. So it is not performing the desired function reliably. So what does that mean? That means that the maximum value is obtained when the essential function is to show time, is achieved for the minimum cost. So that if suppose your specifications are that for 3 years this product should deliver, then that should not be compromised. And for that kind of 3 year, you can say lock-in period, you will compare 4 or 5 different products. So whichever is giving you the essential function at the minimum cost without compromising the quality, performance or reliability, that product you are going to choose as per the cardinal or the basic principle of value engineering. There are other definitions also, so I will just read and try to explain another definition. The Society of American Value Engineers, normally they call it as SAVE, S-A-V-E, Society of American Value Engineering, defines value engineering as the systematic application of recognized techniques which identify the function of a product or service. So again, the word function is coming, and therefore I spent some time in explaining the word function. So these are a systematic approach. So it is not a philosophy, it is a systematic technique where scientifically there are templates available. If you buy a good book on value engineering, towards the end of the book you will get a template that how to record the information step by step, and how to solve the problem. So the systematic application of recognized techniques. So there are 20 techniques of value engineering. Some of them are behavioral in aspect, some of them are technical in aspect, some of them are financial in aspect. So there are 20 different techniques of value engineering which help you to solve any problem, keeping in mind the principles of value engineering. So value engineering is the systematic application of recognized techniques which identify the function of a product. How you will identify the function of a product? By asking questions like how and why, and establish a monetary value for that function. So for getting any function, for example the watch only for showing the time, a monetary value will be assigned to this, that how the time can be depicted or shown using a wristwatch. What is the monetary value associated with this? What is the minimum money a customer must spend in order to get this function of a watch on his hand or on his wrist? So which identify the function of a product or service, establish a monetary value for that function, and then try to provide that necessary function. Very important word is coming in the definition here. Reliably, it is not reliability, reliably, I is extra, at the lowest overall cost. So the desired function has to be provided reliably at the lowest possible cost after you subject the product design to the value engineering principles. So from value engineering point of view, a designer will try to achieve that target, that the product has been designed to satisfy this particular function, and this function must be provided to the customer reliably but at the minimum possible cost. Now let us take an example of a hypothetical bolt. Maybe normally in a class I ask this question to the students and I ask them to think over it for some time. Now this is an example of a hypothetical bolt that holds the wing on a transport airplane. So the wing, suppose it is a hypothetical, although there will be hundreds of rivets which will be fixing the wing to the main body of the plane. But suppose we are imagining that there is a one bolt which is fixing the wing of the aircraft with the main body. Now the question is, suppose this airplane is carrying the passengers and the bolt fails midway in the air. What is the value of this bolt? You can think over it. We have seen the basic definition of value engineering. We know what is value, what is function, what is cost. Now suppose the bolt fails mid-air. What is the value of the bolt? Now many of us will answer the question that the value of the bolt will be equal to the lives of the passengers that will be lost, but that is not the right answer. From the basic definition of value engineering, we have to understand that the desired function, what is the function of the bolt? To hold the wing to the main body, or to assemble the wing to the main body. So that is the desired function of the bolt, but it must be achieved reliably without compromising the quality performance. So if it is failing, the value of the bolt becomes automatically zero. It is not providing us the desired function reliably. The cost does not come into picture because value is directly proportional to the function. So if the function is not being achieved, function is giving a zero value, or obviously the value will become zero. So that is the basic understanding of the concept of value engineering, that we are trying to understand the function of a product vis-a-vis the cost of the product. And the valuable products will be those products which will provide us the desired function for which we have bought the product at the minimum possible cost. And if you have understood this basic concept, many of you will appreciate that every day in our day-to-day life we are following the principle of value engineering. Suppose we go for a vegetable market and we try to buy the onions. Now the quality of the onions is already fixed in my mind, that what is the size, what is the color of the onion that I want to buy. Now when I reach the market, I start looking for the various alternatives. I may go to 5 vendors and then try to see where I am getting the quality. So maybe out of the 5, 2 may be rejected based on my perception of the quality of the onions. Now I am left with the 3. Now for these 3, the quality of the onion, the color is excellent, the size is as per my requirement. So they are appealing to me, that functionally these 3 vendors are providing the onions as per my specifications. But then I will try to inquire about the third main element, that is the cost. And then wherever I get the minimum cost satisfying my quality criteria of color and size, I will try to buy. Maybe even I may like to see that, okay, I may ask the person to cut, and I may do any further quality assessment of the onions. But finally, I will buy which one is satisfying my requirement in terms of color, size, smell, whatever I want to judge, but at a minimum possible cost. So that is the basic concept we must apply in all designs that we normally do. So in value engineering, if applied to the product design, the design that we will come out with will definitely be cost efficient. So the cost has already been integrated into the product design. Now this is the question which I have already asked you on the screen. What if the bolt fails? The answer is that the bolt has a zero value if it fails. Now this is an important diagram on your screen that you can see. These are how and why type of questions. This is how, this is why. This is from the L.D. Miles book, Lawrence D. Miles. This is the fast diagram for overhead transparency projector. So these type of projectors are not used these days, but still we can see that if we analyze the product breaking down, or normally one of the techniques of value engineering is blast, create and refine. Blast, create and refine. Now blast means if it's a bigger product, you bring down it into its different parts and components which have been assembled together to make the larger product or a complete product. So you break down, blast it into the individual component. Now try to understand what is the role, what is the function of each and every component. Can few functions be combined? Can few functions be eliminated? So then analyzing each and every part component of a bigger assembly, we will be able to come up with certain solutions. So here very quickly I will try to explain this diagram. So this is the basic function. I told you there will be a basic function and there will be a secondary or a higher order function. So the lower order function here, Y, is provide transparency. Why do we provide transparency? Why do we provide power? We provide power to provide light. because without power we may not be able to provide the light. So why do we provide the light? To illuminate the transparency. Why do we illuminate the transparency? To project the image. Why do we project the image? To use the screen. Why do we use the screen? To show the diagram. Why do we show the diagram? To teach the students. So where this is the higher order function, these two are the lower order function, and this is normally as we see CPM, but this is the critical path. So these all the things are very important, and if you miss any of these, suppose you are not projecting the image properly, the overhead projector's function is not achieved. If the diagram is not shown clearly, you will not be able to teach the students. So all these points are very critical to the performance of the overhead projector. But these are the secondary functions. Here you see that once you provide the light, how you will provide the light? With the help of a lamp. So why the lamp is required? Because you have to provide light. Now because the lamp is there will be heating. So if the heating will be there, you have to provide the cooling mechanism for that. Why do you need the cooling mechanism? In order to reduce the heat that is produced by the lamp. So this is the unwanted heat that is produced, which is because of this lamp, which has to be removed. So now from this we see that these are the most important things, but these are also integral part of the product, because the lamp is going to produce the heat. So if we divide the bigger product assembly into smaller elements, we may see that this is not contributing directly to our higher order function of teaching the students. So can we focus on this area and try to use a different lamp or a different quality lamp or a different mechanism of projecting the image, so that this cooling is not required, blowing of air is not required, fan is not required, duct is not required. So if we are able to reduce this heat produced by the lamp, very easily we can eliminate all these secondary parts or components. Obviously, if you are able to use a different lamp, all these will automatically be eliminated, which may lead to reduction in the size of the overhead projector. It may even lead to noise-free operation, because always the fan is moving, it creates a sound which normally infringes into the sound of the teacher. So the teacher also sometimes gets irritated by that. So the lens is the duct is gone, fan is gone, size becomes smaller, which we normally see these days. There are palm top type of projectors also available. So how that is possible? Because the basic function of a projector is to project the information, not the cooling or the ducts or the fans. All these are just secondary functions. So if we focus properly on a bigger product and then try to understand each and every part of the product, that why this part has been assembled to the product, obviously there are chances that we may be able to remove some of the parts which may not be contributing directly towards the achievement of the basic function of the product. So this is just one example. Some of you may be wondering what is the meaning of FAST. So it is not fast or quick. This is the abbreviated form of functional analysis system technique. Functional analysis system technique. So if you Google FAST diagrams, you may get FAST diagrams for other products as well, or even you can make your own FAST diagram for a very sophisticated or a complicated product by blasting it into different components. Then is the next term in the technique of blast, create and refine is create a new technique, create a new method, or you create a new component which may integrate the function of 3 or 4 components. So you create a solution by blasting the product into individual component, then you refine that solution, and finally you can use that solution. So one of the techniques I am highlighting here is that is blast, create and refine. Another technique is use the company's money as your own money. So normally when we spend the money, we are little carefree when we are spending the company's money or our organization's money, but we are very careful when we are spending our own money. So that means that if you are working for an organization and you start spending the company's money as you would have spent your own money, automatically you will take decisions which will be helpful for the organization in saving a lot of money. So therefore, I am just touching down some of the techniques you can find in different books, the 20 techniques of value engineering. This is one of the important standard methods, as we saw that as per the definition of SAVE, Society of American Value Engineers. You can see that it is a systematic approach. It is not a philosophy or maybe an abstract or subjective thing. It is an objective thing. It is an objective approach where very scientifically you can analyze any product and see that which are the functions to be achieved and how we can achieve that functions by combining few components or by distributing the functions among different components. That will depend upon product to product. Different products may require different approach, which is not there is no approach which is universal, but on need or application point of view, if you analyze each and every point by keeping in mind the function and the cost into each and every decision, then you will be able to very easily save a lot of money for the organization. And in one of the books I have read that value engineering till today, wherever it has been applied, at least the break even is certain. So whatever investment that you do on value engineering in terms of hiring consultants or hiring experts or giving training to your own staff, whosoever, whatever expenditure that you do on value engineering endeavors or value engineering initiatives in the organization, companies have reported that at least the return, whatever they spent, they could get the same returns, even they were able to get the higher returns on investment done on the value engineering initiative. So that is already documented. Now this is a rapid prototyping. I will skip because this is not directly related to our topic. Now I will share the other slide. Already my screen is shared. Has the slide changed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is changed.
Okay, so I may not speak too much on this. This is a kind of a cartoon, we can say story, which is giving us the summary of what we have covered. So maybe in another 5 minutes, I will scroll down the slides, and wherever need, I will wherever it is required, I will speak. So this is a kind of a story on value engineering, that how the principles of value engineering can be applied. This is in the quote of an emperor. There is an important matter before the quote. So the raw material price is shooting up by 10 rupees. And different soldiers are 50,000 soldiers are added, so all these soldiers have to be given the swords, and the cost is also going high. Now this is a product design problem. How to solve this problem without increasing the taxes. So everybody is quiet, nobody has a solution. So the king asks his most reliable minister. So I'm surprised that you two have become silent. So now the solutions will come up. Now you can see there are few highlights in his statement. The highlights are reduce the cost of the sword, So cost is important parameter in value engineering without compromising the functional requirements. So as I have told you, value is equal to function divided by cost. So we have to achieve the desired functions without compromising on the performance or the quality, but at a lower cost. That is the target. One by one the solution will come. We have 6 ideas now. Let us see what are the 6 ideas. So this is the existing design of the hilt. This is the new idea. So maybe you may not be able to appreciate the reduction in the number of parts, but at least we can appreciate the idea that one of the, just a minute, चंद्रवीर, चंद्रवीर, मैं एक लेक्चर ले रहा हूँ, तुम्हारा लिंक मेरे को मिल गया। हाँ, ओके, so this is the new design with 4 parts. So the idea is reduction in the number of parts. Idea number 2, for the new hilt, instead of designing exclusive rivets, we can use the rivets of the daggers. So dagger is another weapon that is used by the soldiers. Now this is an exclusive rivet which is designed only for the swords. So they say, why to go for a special design? We can go for a very simpler design which is already being used for our daggers. So this, for the new hilt, so the hilt has been designed. I go back again. There was a phone call, so I'm sorry. Again go back. So the ideas are, first idea, this is the idea, change in the design of the hilt, which means we should reduce the number of parts that are going into the product. Second idea is that we should not use specialized design. We should go for a simpler design which is already manufactured. So what is this idea? This idea is part commonization, which is also called as standardization. So whenever we are designing a product, one of the key elements can be that always focus on the standard parts and equipments at standard dimensions which are easily available. Now the third idea on the screen is, you can read, when the Shah of Persia was our guest last month, I observed that the hilt in the sword does not have a curved portion. We can design similar hilts for our experienced soldiers. So this is the existing design for this king. This is the new idea. So the curved portion can be eliminated from here. Now some of you may be wondering that it is really required for the new soldiers, how they will be able to attain the mastery of using a sword without this. So therefore already it is explained here that these swords can be given to the experienced soldiers. These swords, the new swords, can be given to the experienced soldiers who do not require this hilt because they are already skillful enough to use this kind of sword. So what does this idea means? This idea means benchmarking. Why? Because this idea has been taken from the sword that was used by the Shah of Persia. The next idea is related to the sheath. Sheath means the covering of the sword. You will keep your sword in the sheath. The sheath which houses the blade is made up of copper now. We can switch over to alloy steel, which is cheaper. So the sheath is made up of copper, which will definitely add cost because copper is costly as compared to steel. So you can switch to steel, which is a good idea about alternate material. What is the next idea? The next idea is, since alloy steel is stronger than copper, we can reduce the thickness by 0.5 millimeter, which will save the material. So you can see this is change in the sheath. This is 2 millimeter, and we can, the blade is 2 millimeter thick, we can change to 1.5 millimeter here. So that will add to the reduction in the weight. The sheath is made up of, now it is made up of steel, which is more stronger than copper, then the thickness can be reduced without compromising. You can see it is stronger, therefore with less strength, with less thickness also we may be able to get the same strength. So there is no compromise on the performance or quality of the product, but still we are able to save the weight of the product. We are able to reduce the cost of the product as well. What is the next idea? The curved blade design is yielding only 2 pieces per die. If a straight blade design is used, we can extract 3 pieces per die. So you can see this is 2 plates, these are 3 plates. So by changing the curvature, this curvature, we can get more yield. So this is yield improvement. So we can see that the authors who have made this PPT, this is not my PPT, but the authors who have developed this PPT, it is available on the internet. They have been able to highlight all the important points which must be kept in mind from the product designer's point of view. Now, what are these points? We normally think about which material must be used for making a product, which process must be used for making a product. We must always look for alternate materials, we must look for alternate processes, we must always look for standard parts, we must always look for benchmarking. So all important product design thoughts are integrated into this single case study, but still there are challenges in terms of the change management. So although it is proved that it can help us to save a lot of money, but still there are challenges related to change. So normally you can see there is another minister in the court who says that the present design is being used since the time of your grandfather without any failure. We should not risk any design change. So the important point that I want to highlight, there are other slides which I feel maybe are showing the importance of this technique and what type of benefits can be drawn after you apply value engineering, and in each and every section of the army which they have given here. Just I will quickly run through and we will take the questions. This is the final slide. This is again the functional analysis system technique which I already showed all of you for that overhead projector. So we can use the understand and may become an expert of using the functional analysis system technique, which is an important and powerful tool of value engineering, which is an extremely effective system to improve the products and services for cost and productivity improvement. So it is not only that this idea can only be implemented in the design of the sword, it can easily be implemented in other designs also, like spears, arrows and cannons. So this is, you can see, minister, there are 4 divisions in my army: infantry, cavalry, artillery and elephant brigade. I want you to teach the engineers in each of these divisions the applications of value engineering, especially the functional analysis system technique. Each division should release armory change request, that is the product design changes in the parts, equipments, weapons they are using for the worth of rupees 25 lakhs. So which means that this idea is not only limited to either as in this example only for one product. This is a general idea which every product designer, every engineer must always integrate into his or her thought process, so that you can come up with new and new products which not only establish or satisfy the desired function, but also are cost efficient and maybe more productive. So with this, I think I will stop sharing and maybe and maybe we can take the questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, participants. If you have some questions, so ask to sir, and unmute. If you want to talk to direct sir, so unmute ourselves and ask some questions. Sir, I think there is one question.
Yeah, I am trying to open the chat.
Yes, yes.
Look, commonly accepted metrics. Can you unmute and ask Rahul?
Rahul? Rahul?
Evening, sir. Hi. So here's where I was coming from. So there are various techniques that you spoke about to achieve value via the principle of value engineering. So I was just wondering if there are certain metrics which are sort of best practices that are used to drive home the principle of value engineering.
No, see, the point is that the matrix will change from application to application. For example, suppose you go to the aircraft design of an air part or aircraft equipment or a part. So there the weight is the prime metric, and you will try to reduce the weight of the part or component which has to be used in the aircraft industry. So currently we may be using a weight which a part or a component which may be weighing suppose 7 kgs. So we may see that for achieving this function the minimum weight can be 4 kgs. So that is one metric, that is weight reduction can be one metric. Another metric can be, suppose you talk about a engine efficiency, then the efficiency can be another metric, but that will change the application altogether. So the point that I am trying to make is that whatever question I could understand is that you are trying to understand the commonly defined metrics, METRICS, or the identifiers which can help us to chase that what we should chase when we are designing a product. So if a product has to be used in aircraft industry, weight and the performance can be one metric. If you are chasing a product maybe for household equipment, weight may not be all that important, then the cost may be an important driving metric, that okay, the cost should not be above, maybe anybody will buy this product only up to rupees 100. So your cost become identifier that you should not design a product which must be higher than this cost. Okay, thank you, Rahul. That was a good question. Any other question?
Any question? S. Chandra? Your voice is not clear.
Dr. Singh, just a follow-up question here. In most of the value engineering projects that you might have undertaken, what are the most common challenges that come about, sir, when you're devising solutions while implementing the principle of value engineering?
Yeah. Rahul, this is a very typical question for me to answer, because I am not a consultant of value engineering. I am a academician, so normally we teach value engineering to our students at IIT Roorkee. I have not undertaken any consultancy project related to value engineering, but normally what we are trying to do, my research area, as I discussed in the very beginning of today's session, I am basically a mechanical engineer with specialization in advanced materials. So we are doing research. All my PhD students have worked on experimental techniques for designing and developing and fabricating the composite materials which are lightweight materials. So our research interests are entirely different from what I am delivering today. But since I teach product design and development, value engineering in normal classes, so that is my understanding to these issues are more academic in nature than applying them practically in any organization. But your question is quite right. My point is the major challenge to the application, as was in the case study, is the change. So normally we have to accept that new materials, new processes, new designs can help us to cut on our costs associated with the designs without compromising on the performance. Now, normally when the plastics were introduced in the country, maybe 30-40 years back, there was a common notion that the steel or material or metallic parts are more robust, more, you can say, reliable as compared to the plastic parts. But over a period of time, you see plastics have completely overtaken metals in many applications where temperature is not a constraint. So therefore change or acceptance of change is one of the major criteria, but now slowly the industry is moving towards change. For example, once the plastics, there was a lot of discussion about the use of plastics. Now companies are trying to come up with materials which are going to replace the single use plastics or the plastics which are detrimental to the environment. So the point is that if you have a specific solution, government wants to ban the use of plastics, but then you have to provide an alternative solution also. So the work is going on in providing that solution. So once you come up with a robust solution which can replace a problematic product or a problematic material, obviously the change will happen. So the major challenge is the change.
That helps.
Any questions from participants? If you want to, I think. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us, for sharing your valuable knowledge on product design and value engineering. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you all of you.